I will never tell you that gold is definitely going to do this. Nvidia will definitely do this. You'll never hear those words out of me. What I will usually tell you is there's a narrative that I have, which I'm going to get to in a few minutes. And then from the narrative, I do if then. Well, if this happens, then we can do that. And if this happens, I think I might do that. And then if it does happen, I'm going to wait for this to confirm, and then we can do this. Like that's sort of, you'll see in a second. So gold, so this for the market, this is bearish. This is still bullish. This is still a check mark, but you've got resistance. So I put a question mark. This is still bullish, but I put a question mark because you're at the upper Bollinger Band, you're overbought, and no, I don't think so. And this, higher highs, higher lows, okay, but I don't know, not above the daily 50. You can't look at it as a bullish chart if it's trading below the daily 50. And the Russell, although it is a bullish chart, is starting to, turn south. So again, you can see now why you haven't seen a ton of alerts the last 3 days. Look at the indecision of the indicators. I don't gamble. There's no such thing as a sure thing either. But we'll get there. Let's look at oil. Oil dropped. And this was all about the Iran-Israeli thing and the regime change thing. If they do regime change, oil is going to go down to 60. This thing will drop down here. So that was the initial reaction. Went down a little further, but it kind of like support level. If this starts to go up a little bit and the dollar drops a little bit further and gold goes up and Nvidia starts to pull back and Apple goes below 20 and the Russell does this, I'm starting to get some bearish confirmations, which would allow me to lean into my bearish trades. You guys see where I'm going? On the other hand, if oil goes down and gold goes down and this continues to go higher and Apple finally gets above 205 and the Russell, instead of going down, goes up, or it rotates, we'll see, then we could be looking at the other direction. Let's look at the put-call ratio. So this is super interesting. So you can see how you got I'm not going to explain this one in detail. You can watch the videos for this. But this moving average on the put-call ratio basically means that as this moves down, more calls are being bought. When that happens, this is the S&P 500, the markets rise. When it gets too extremely low, the put call, where there's so many people, everybody and their sister is long, it forms a topping pattern in the SPY, and then investors switch from calls to puts, and that moves the put-call ratio up, where the abundance of puts are bought. And when that happens, the market drops until it gets to an extreme level. When it gets to an extreme level, that's typically when a bottom is put in, the buy the dippers come in, and then calls start being put on, and you see this move back down as the markets move up. Can you see how the moving average here is almost exactly the opposite of the SPY? Look at that. It's almost a mirror image. And that's because when there's an abundance of calls, the markets go up until it's an extreme level of calls. And then that's when the puts show up, and that's when the market turns. Until there's an extreme level of puts, the market finds a bottom, and then the calls come in, and you see this go down. So what you're seeing now is a lot of calls being bought. But the puts are starting to show up. So what you might see tomorrow is a little bit of a hooksy, and this might start working its way back up if this goes back down. So we're watching the put-call ratio. Now I have it on a 195 chart. It's really best to look at the daily. And you can already see on the daily, so extreme. starting to hook to the downside. So maybe some more calls will come, or maybe it'll do one of these like that, and head back up. More puts, roll over. So we'll see. Let's take a look at, I think I have Bitcoin in here. Where'd she go? Well, we'll look at the VIX next. Well, VIX softened up. It definitely softened up. It's still in a squeeze, but you now have this support bottom. And you're not over, you're definitely not oversold. It's not at the bottom there yet. Let's take a look at the 195 chart. That's a half a day. So if you look, could come down a little more before it bounces off of here. Interesting. Keep an eye on the VIX. See if it starts heading back up towards 18-ish. If it does, that opens the door to 20. 20 opens the door to 23. This is where it seems to be wanting to live. Put pressure on the market. We will see. Let's go back over here. There's that. I kind of messed up my beautiful charts here that I had. Is Bitcoin behind here? No. Where are you hiding? Unless I threw it over here. No. Right. Gold. Oil. Whoop. So put oil over here for now. I'll get rid of this NVIDIA. I might have killed it. There it is. Found it. So put this right about here. And here's Bitcoin. If you look at Bitcoin, it's in a daily squeeze. And so where can this thing go? It could pop, but it is, if you look at does look to me like it is wanting to go down. And so we just have to keep an eye and see. This was yesterday's close right here. That's yesterday's close. And so it was a little bit higher. But we'll just kind of watch it. I think if it takes out 106, or let's say 106 half, I think that opens the door, down to like 103, 103-ish. So we're just going to keep an eye. I'm just going to keep an eye on Bitcoin. I'll keep it at the daily. Right now, it's pretty much a bullish chart. But if you look, lower highs were created. Lower lows are created. So this looks like a bullish chart. Great. Looks like everything's going to point up, but it's in a squeeze. This thing could fire short. I don't know. To me, it looks, I think what we'd have to do is you got to lose, 102. If you lose 102.4, I guess that's the number I'm pinning, which is the daily 50. Then I think it goes down, and then that would be a bearish indicator for the markets. I'll throw that in there. I'll throw the VIX over here. Put call I've got here. There's my SPY 15. I can get rid of that too because I have SPY 15 here. Got the put-call ratio. If you look at yields, yields are softening up a little bit, I think, with talk about potentially a yield cut in July, but they're still elevated. They still need to be down in this range, 4.1, 4.2. It got below 4.3 today, so we'll see if they continue going lower, but bond market still, to me, is in trouble. Kind of an indicator of potential recession, or at least what investors think. The more troubling chart is the dollar. And the dollar continues to sink. So this is very telling, because that means overseas investors are dumping the dollar, which means they don't have confidence in the U.S. economy, which is also supported by buying gold. So really interesting, the dynamic that's in play here, and I'm kind of just watching it all. One of the things that I shared in Legacy is that, I'd love to create a narrative, and it could be anything. And the good news is I don't have to be right or wrong with my narrative, and you can create them too. You already have them. Well, the last time oil did this, Well, July is seasonally this. September is the worst day of the month. Well, defense contractors, if we're going to war. I mean, you guys can create, tariff news and whatever. You can create your own narrative, whatever it is. My narratives I share bluntly and candidly with you here. But what I learned a long time ago is not to trade my narrative. I don't want to buy my own bullshit and think that I know much more than the hedge funds and the analysts that run those machines and those algos. So I take my narrative, which if you look at what I've created here, I've had somewhat of a bearish narrative. And because of that, I looked at specific setups that looked weak to me. And so we waited on those setups for some confirmation. And I'm talking about a technical analysis. Higher highs, higher lows, lower highs, a break of a level, a break of the daily 50, the Bollinger Bands, a squeeze, whatever it is, technical analysis. And so this is how I normally trade. I have to build a narrative based on what I see in the market weather, the overall market weather. Apple down, Nvidia up. ES hitting a level, gold going up, the dollar going down, the put-call ratio starting to turn, Bitcoin, blah, the VIX getting ready to explode. And so I've got my narrative of where I think it is.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video from Trade With Me Now. Make sure to go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel so you make sure that you catch our next video right when it's released. Also, if you have a question or comment, please leave that in the comment section below. And of course, if you want to learn more about Trade With Me Now or join our community of profitable traders, go to tradewithmenow.com. There's also a link in the description below.